Forensic artists have rebuilt the faces of dozens of ancient humans using nothing but a skull and tissue depth data. And almost every time, people react the same way. Not with horror, but with surprise. Because the face staring back at them isn't a grunting cave monster, it's someone you'd walk past on the street without a second look. So which is it? Were ancient humans actually attractive? Or have we been picturing this completely wrong the entire time? To answer that honestly, we need to split this into two very different questions. Would ancient humans pass today's specific beauty standards? And underneath that, what does attractive even mean, biologically? That second question is where this gets interesting, and the short answer is, ancient humans were running the exact same biological software we are. Attractiveness feels like pure culture, something that shifts with every trend cycle. But strip away the fashion, and there's a surprisingly consistent core underneath it. Across wildly different, unconnected cultures, researchers keep finding the same preferences showing up. Facial symmetry, clear skin, certain proportions between features. These aren't arbitrary. They're honest signals, hard to fake, of health and stable development. Symmetry tends to track with a childhood free of major illness or malnutrition. Clear skin signals the absence of infection or parasites right now. Nobody's calculating this consciously. Brains that found those signals appealing simply produced healthier offspring, generation after generation, which means an ancient human with a symmetrical face and clear skin would have registered as attractive for the exact same underlying reason a modern one does. The packaging changed, the wiring didn't. But here's where it stops being simple, because face shape itself tells a more complicated story than you'd expect. Older ancient skulls often show heavier brow ridges and broader, more robust bone structure than the average modern face. The kind of features that, by today's standards favoring more delicate bone structure, might not read as conventionally attractive at all. But that rugged caveman image most people default to is doing a lot of misleading work. Populations close to the emergence of anatomically modern humans, roughly 200,000 years ago onward, already had faces remarkably close to ours. The heavy-featured face people picture belongs less to early Homo sapiens and more to earlier hominins, and specifically to Neanderthals. Subscribe now, because the Neanderthal detail we're about to get into is the twist that actually complicates everything we just said. Neanderthals had larger brow ridges, a more projected midface, and heavier bone structure than Homo sapiens, features that, judged purely against modern beauty standards, would likely read as unusual to most people today. And yet Homo sapiens and Neanderthals interbred repeatedly over an extended stretch of overlap, which means at least some of our ancestors found Neanderthals attractive enough, or viable enough, to have children with, on a scale that shows up clearly in modern DNA. Whatever the calculus was, it clearly wasn't a hard barrier. And that tells us attraction has always been more flexible and situational than we assume, even across what we'd now call separate species. Now here's where the evidence gets genuinely hard to argue with. Because it's not inference, it's artifacts. Ancient humans didn't just passively exist with whatever face they were born with. They actively worked at how they looked. Red ochre wasn't only used in burials. It shows up as body decoration during life, meaning people were applying cosmetics tens of thousands of years before anyone wrote a single word about beauty. Beads made from shell, bone, and ivory, deliberately pierced and strung for adornment, turn up at sites across the globe, independently, again and again. That's not accidental. That's real time and skill invested specifically in appearance. Even combs carved from bone and antler have been recovered, dating back thousands of years. Dedicated grooming tools, not incidental scraps. And some cultures went further still. Deliberate dental filing, scarification, body modification that involved real, sustained physical discomfort. The kind of investment you only make if appearance genuinely matters to your social world. Then there are the Venus figurines, small carved female forms with exaggerated hips, breasts, and abdomen, found across an enormous geographic spread of Paleolithic sites. For a long time, people assumed these were literally ancient beauty ideals carved in stone. More recent scholarship pushes back hard on that. These might be fertility symbols, first-person self-representations, or something entirely different we don't fully understand yet. It's a useful warning for this whole topic. One artifact rarely proves what people found attractive. it might be telling us something else entirely. So, do we have any direct evidence of specific preferences? Here's the honest limit. For deep prehistory, no written records exist. That evidence is gone. It's only once we hit Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia that beauty standards get explicit. Specific skin tones, proportions, styles, varying by class, gender, and region. And what that later evidence proves clearly is that beauty standards have always shifted, even within just the last few centuries. Body fat once signaled wealth and food security. Pale skin once signaled freedom from outdoor labor. None of it was ever one fixed universal standard, which means the entire premise of measuring prehistoric people against one static modern bar was probably flawed from the start. And this is where facial reconstruction becomes genuinely powerful. It's the closest thing we have to direct visual evidence instead of speculation. Using standardized tissue depth data laid over a real skull, forensic artists have produced startlingly familiar faces, including a widely circulated reconstruction of a Neanderthal woman that looked far more conventionally presentable than the stereotype anyone expected. But averages hide something important. Ancient populations, exactly like modern ones, contained real individual variation. Some people would have had the symmetry and clear skin that triggers strong attraction responses. Others, due to illness, injury, or parasitic load, wouldn't have. Asking, were ancient humans attractive as one uniform yes or no is exactly as flawed as asking that about all 8 billion people alive right now. Nutrition mattered too. Populations going through hardship would show it directly in skin, hair, and muscle tone, adding a whole extra layer of variation tied to circumstance, not just genetics. And it wasn't only faces. Voice and movement mattered. Vocal pitch and stability track with hormonal health independent of how someone's face looks. And researchers have found people can read health and personality just from someone's gait. Social traits counted for a lot too. Demonstrated hunting skill, reliability, craftsmanship. These carried real attraction-relevant weight, completely separate from bone structure. Reducing this whole topic to facial symmetry alone genuinely undersells how layered ancient attraction actually was. Age mattered differently too. With shorter average lifespans and demanding physical labor, signs of youth and vigor likely carried more direct practical weight in mate selection than they do in many modern contexts, though skill and accumulated status clearly still counted for something. And here's the part that ties it all together. Modern dating app research, running on millions of swipes, keeps surfacing the exact same preferences, symmetry, proportion, health signals, across wildly different cultures and demographics. The same underlying mechanism, whether you're studying a smartphone screen today or a 20,000-year-old skeleton. So, were ancient humans attractive? Genuinely, yes. In exactly the same complicated, individually variable way modern humans are. Some had the symmetry and health markers that trigger strong attraction responses even now. Others didn't. The cultural packaging on top, hairstyles, jewelry, standards of what counted as desirable, shifted constantly across history, the same way it does today. But the deep machinery underneath, evaluating symmetry and health, has been quietly running the same way since long before anyone wrote it down, connecting every generation back to whoever first picked up a piece of ochre, looked at their reflection in still water, and decided they wanted to look just a little bit better.